Welcome, everyone, to Portal to Another Dimension, the podcast that opens gateways to the uncharted dimensions, theories, and is your passport to the unknown, and you've just stepped into the portal. I'm Drago Reid, your host and navigator through these mysteries that lie beyond the depths of our understanding and the unexplored territories of truth. So sit back and enjoy the ride as I peel back the veil of reality, where each episode becomes your portal to unlocking forbidden knowledge, the secrets within, and the keys to awakening that lies dormant within you. Buckle up, my friends, because everything you thought you knew will change from this moment on as I unravel and unweave the threads to the cosmic play in this convoluted multiverse. Welcome to Humans 2.0. Welcome to the new reality. Today is February 26, 2024, and I'm coming at you live from the Citadel in Tampa, Florida. Today's guest holds an intimate cosmic connection to a subject that I hold dear and I've studied over the last 2 decades, and that topic is the Anunnaki. My guest, Michael Lee Hill, is a modern-day Renaissance soul whose narrative unfolds at the intersection of ancient mysteries, covert intelligence, and celestial harmonies. Born with an innate curiosity and an insatiable thirst for knowledge, Michael Lee Hill has become a prominent figure in the exploration of the Anunnaki, an ancient extraterrestrial civilization believed to have shaped the very fabric of human history. His tireless pursuit of the truth unveils the cosmic connections that bind us to our celestial origins, establishing him as a leading researcher in the arcane realm of ancient extraterrestrial influences. Venturing deeper into this multifaceted labyrinth, Michael's story takes an intriguing turn with his association with the Advanced Contact Intelligence Organization, also known as the ACIO. This clandestine government agency, immersed in the study of extraterrestrial phenomenon, casts a shadow of mystery and intrigue over Michael's life, positioning him as a unique liaison between the cosmic and the classified. The narrative gains complexity with Michael's involvement in the Labyrinth Group, an elusive consortium engaged in cutting-edge technological advancements and interdimensional exploration. As a participant in this shadowy world, Hill's experience adds layers of intrigue, showcasing his role as a conduit between the esoteric knowledge of ancient civilizations and the covert operations that shape the physics of reality. Yet amidst the universe's enigmas and clandestine dealings, Michael Lee Hill's journey extends into the realm of the arts. As a talented musician and composer, his melodies transcend conventional boundaries, echoing the frequencies of his celestial encounters and interdimensional layovers. Michael's music becomes an orchestrated symphony, inviting listeners to a realm where the boundaries between the terrestrial and the extraterrestrial blur. His story is one of exploration, enlightenment, and the harmonious convergence of music and esoteric wisdom. In the grand composition of Michael's life, Michael emerges as a light bearer, bringing the realms of ancient wisdom, covert intelligence, and artistic expression. His connections to the Anunnaki, the ACIO, and the Labyrinth Group paint a portrait of a modern mystic, inviting us to explore the boundless possibilities that lie beyond the veil of conventional understanding. Prepare to be captivated by the extraordinary presence of Michael Lee Hill, a seeker of truth, a cosmic maestro, and a custodian of the mysteries that shape the very existence of our reality. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Cosmic custodian.
I like that, man.
I like that.
All right, man. So to kick things off, can you just share a little about your journey and how you found yourself on the path you're on today, man?
Well, my whole life I've had strange occurrences. For instance, growing up, I'd ask my mom, how come Santa Claus's elves are coming to visit me? It's not Christmas. And strange happenings, strange actually people coming to visit me that seemed like strangers but were very nice, and but nothing to really talk about until around 2006, and that is when I see my first UFO over Lake Erie. And that just blew my mind. I didn't know what it was at first because it's not the typical description of a UFO. It's just a big freaking ball of light, man. Like a big Merkaba, a big chariot of fire, whatever you want to call them. I call them orbs of light, but you can call them whatever you need to call them. But that's what really started opening up this whole other part of my life that unfolded. That was because some of my footage went viral, and that brought the History Channel to my door. And they came, and my episode became the #1 episode for season 1 of UFO Hunters, and it's called Alien Contact. And it was #1, they said, because it had a lot of drama. Imagine that, right? The drama was that Bill told the other crew members, I'm going to prove these guys myself was a human hybrid. And Pat Uskert, the other host, goes to Bill Burns, like, don't say that. You can't say that. This is, we need a lot more testing done and stuff. But it was that butting of heads of Bill Burns going, I know they're hybrids, which, by the way, dude, he told me this when we were filming in my living room. He came up to me, mind you, he's a New York Times best-selling author. He wrote The Day After Roswell with Philip Corso. I found out some stuff about that, but he's in my living room getting dressed. So that was a little weird anyhow, because I walk out into my living room, he's like pulling up his trousers. I'm like, oh, holy shit. Hey, dude, And he goes, Michael, I'm very jealous of the role you have to play in the very near future, between them and us. And I'm like, what is this dude on? Because this is before I even met the Anunnaki. This is, 2008. So I still, to this day, I even got a chance to ask AR Borden, which we'll get into who he is. But I asked AR, I'm like, who is Bill Burns? How did he know these things were going to be unfolding in my life? Because on that UFO Hunters show, he plainly states that we were being contacted by a secret group of the military industrial complex and would be offered a course of study to help us and prepare us for contact and with this extraterrestrial race that is our parental race. And when he releases that in the History Channel show, it's like, there ain't no hiding it. That was before it actually happened. So how is that even possible? Like, who was Bill Burns? Did he time travel? I don't know. Don't you think that's a little weird?
With your story, not at all, man.
Hmm.
You seem to attract really auspicious and incredible events to your life. Like when you was filming in Lake Erie, that's technically a no-fly zone, right? Because was there a
Yes.
nuclear power plant within like 16, 18 miles away or something like that?
There's two. There's the East Lake CEI coal power plant, which shut down a couple of years ago. But that power plant was up and functioning up until very recently. So that was a no-fly zone ever since 9/11, but then probably about 13 miles to the east is Perry Nuclear Power Plant. And again, that's a no-fly zone. So yeah, these things should not be flying over the lake. What's really interesting though is the same CEI power plant. Remember in 2003 that there was a massive power outage that took out most of the states in the northern United States and most of Southern California?
It does sound familiar.
Yeah. Well, it started right here in Eastlake. And that night there was tons of UFOs spotted. But I can tell you why it's important in this area is it was AR Borden who told me, what's underneath you in that area. I said, no, not really. And said it's the world's oldest underground base. He said, but don't look at it as much as a base as it is an underground city. under this area. And the last time he was down there, he took an entrance from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. So that's quite a distance. If there's underground cities that go from Detroit to Cleveland, you know?
I'm actually seeing that everywhere now. They're putting out all kinds of video that shows these. It's almost designed like a dumb, where you go inside, access to a mountain. They have all these truckers, and I think it's Tyler Koala. He's filming a lot of the stuff that's going on over there in Illinois, and some of these truckers are saying that they can drive all the way to other states through this underground system that I heard was more of an ancient thing. And it was grandmother Morningstar told you that when the Anunnaki came from Atlantis, they actually settled right there in Ohio.
Yes.
So like
Yeah,
that makes
'cause
sense.
most of us, that's my bloodline. And the Iroquois, which I am Seneca Iroquois on my mother's side and Erie Montauk on my father's side. And yeah, this is home base long ago of the lost tribe of Israel, the Sangreal, the Holy Grail bloodline, the Anunnaki Nephilim human hybrid bloodline on this planet. And, you know, I am their messenger and I'm here to reveal the story to the planet. So thank you for the opportunity.
Dude, it's an honor to talk to such an amazing person and actually be able to talk to Enki. Like I think
I'm
everybody's
cool.
talking about the Anunnaki now. What's up?
Yeah, I'm cool with Mike. You know, what's it even mean? Like Enki? It's, well, you know what's weird is we can get into this about Elon Musk taking my work to the moon, and it just landed, even though it tipped over, I guess. But part of that mission, my official title that he gave me was Earth Ambassador. Earth Ambassador, En means Lord or Ambassador, and Kai means Earth. Enki means Earth Ambassador. So, you know, I can look someone in the eye and go, you know what? I have been given the title Enki or Earth Ambassador by Elon Musk and SpaceX. You know, the Anunnaki are funny that way of adding a little fun into the equation.
I think the funny tie-in with Elon Musk is it was through a book called Project Mars that Werner von Braun wrote in 1952, and he basically said a guy named Elon will colonize Mars. And then he goes to say that the word Elon is not a name, it's a title. And the word Elon means oak tree. And oak tree is one of the programming symbols in MK Ultra. It's
Oh
it's
shit.
the Kabbalistic tree of life. It personifies itself as an oak tree.
Hmm.
So I always thought that was an awesome connection because I remember his nanny put out a series of videos and she came out and said that Elon was connected psychically to other beings his entire life since he was a child. And when he was a child, he came off as more autistic. And you got to watch these videos, man. Like his actual legit nanny, she had posted photos and all this stuff of their life of working with the Musk family and his mother. And like a lot of people don't know the connections of May Musk and who she is and what she's connected to. So it goes really, really deep, man. So,
Hmm.
th-
Fascinating times we're living in, huh?
yeah, man, like you were talking about different variations of like Enki and stuff and what he's known for. And you had told me earlier that Ia means grandfather as
Hmm.
well. So that was really cool because I know that Ia means he whose home is waters, and you define it as Lord of the Waters. Then he went as Enki, which also means Lord Ambassador of Earth or Lord of the Earth and Waters, Lord of Earth in Sumerian. Um,
Hmm.
he means also in the likeness of, according to the Terra papers. But
I love the Terra
Lord of the
papers.
Earth and Waters and Lord of Earth and Sumerian would be the direct connection to that one.
Yeah, a lot of names. I can even fill in probably about 10 more names. And, when I met the Anunnaki in 2008, they told me they were removing my memory blocks. First of all, I was like, what? I didn't know I had any memory blocks. The hell's that about? But then my second thought was, how would past life memory recall surface into my conscious waking state without me thinking I went insane? Because I'm a pretty scientific kind of guy, even from my past lives and whatnot. And I have a very full functioning picture of reality and the light physics, the light and sound physics that make it up. I'm not just going to believe in something, for shits and giggles. I thought, how would this stuff manifest into my life without me feeling I've went insane? But at that time, I didn't know my Indian heritage. I was adopted. And it wasn't until the History Channel and the Harvard professor that see what happened was the History Channel, seeing that my UFO footage went viral. So they asked me if I would do a TV show. And during it, they flew me to Boston to have my blood work done by a Harvard professor. His name is David Systrom. And it was revealed on that show that I do not have normal human blood. And that was as weird as to me as it is to anyone else. I was like, what are you talking about? And the guy was kind of a dick about it. He said, what do you think unknown means? We don't know what to tell you. So it was a little bit after that aired in 2008 that I actually met the Anunnaki. They said, we are here to talk to you about this blood anomaly that was revealed on the History Channel that is truly an indicator that you are of our hybrid bloodline on this planet that was once known as the Nephilim in the Bible. And I wasn't very religious at that time, so of course I had heard the term, but really didn't understand it. And even when at this time, them telling me you were once known as Enki, I was like, what the hell does that mean? If you don't know who the Anunnaki are, you sure as hell don't know who Enki is. But they've went out of their way to tell me what those things mean, as we've talked about, grandfather and Lord of the Earth, Ambassador of the Earth, Enki. Yeah. Um, some other names I could tell you. Why not? Maitreya. I've lived many lives as a monk, and that title actually means loving kindness. It's
And he's
because,
also a defensor of the water of the life of Aquarius.
yeah, imagine that. That's another thing, because when I met the Anunnaki, they said you were once known as the water bearer. I was like, what the hell does that mean? That made no sense to me whatsoever. But now, dude, I can look someone in the eye and say, I am the water bearer. You want to see the science from NASA? And there ain't no doubt about it. It's not debatable. I've brought through technology that opens a portal through the fabric of our space time and brings in through from a higher dimensional level, higher photonic light energy, Nikolai Tesla 369 energy, and in a way that NASA has never even seen before. Is that, first of all, this is the first time a cosmic energy collector, which is Tesla's own words, by the way, for his devices like the Tesla Tower and the Tesla coil, that would uh, bring forth cosmic energy. They said this is the first time they've ever seen it done by just the use of a crystal. And there's no moving parts. It's just frequency encoded, quantumly entangled holographic reality, quantum reality accelerators put into quartz crystal glass. And so just so I could tell you, that technology is what was just brought to the moon, and it'll be there for the next 10 billion years, raining down that most high vibrant frequency to this planet forevermore. We'll see what effect that has, huh?
Yeah, man, I want to get into your work with semantics, cymatics, and
Mhm.
what you discovered and what you figured out what's encoded within the pyramid, and the reoccurring 432 hertz is encoded in all kinds of amazing stuff.
Yeah,
But right now,
man.
you had mentioned that you were all Enki had a bunch of other names. I know a lot of them. Let's just go for it. He was known as Lord Prince. He was known as Apsu after he vanquished him. He was known as Nudimmud in Sumerian, Samael in Hebrew because I think he was designated Lord of Sama in Mesopotamia. He was known as Poseidon in Greek, Prometheus in Greek, Neptune in Roman, Oannes in Babylonian, Ta, Osiris, Mazda, Dagon, Zoroaster, Dweller, Thothme, Loki, Veles, like so many major
Well,
positions.
all those are accurate. Not Loki though. I met Loki, and we're definitely two different individuals. But he's the one that took me under his wing when I met the Anunnaki in 2008. Specifically, it was Loki.
I did not know
Um,
that.
yeah.
So how would you
Um,
describe that Loki being?
Jovial, mischievous, naked. That
Hmm.
was kind of bizarre. He's definitely had no problem being naked. The whole festival where I was clothing optional, and that was bizarre. I've never been to any such thing.
How did you get invited to something like that?
That was the actual pagan festival, Sirius Rising, that I got invited to, where I actually met the Anunnaki. And it was a friend of mine. She owned a metaphysical jewelry store, and it's just this big event every year in New York. And she happened to be going. She's like, "Me and a bunch of my friends are going. You should just come and hang out." And I had no clue what was in store or waiting for me there.
Wow, man. So you've interacted with some really interesting characters within the Anunnaki mythos and story. You got to meet an incarnation of Enlil, and that was really interesting. You got to meet so many people. What was it like meeting Enlil?
Oh, it was
He's
beautiful
Golden Light
because,
Eagle.
yeah, in this lifetime, he became a dear mentor and a friend to me long before it was revealed that he was Enlil.
Yeah, because he met
And
at the 2009 UFO conference, and you didn't recognize him at that point.
no, going back in time, he he and I had met. He was the keynote speaker. Now, mind you, Chief Golden Light Eagle is probably the highest prominent Native American First Nation elder that there is. He's been on Ancient Aliens many times. His work is in the Smithsonian. He he's the real deal. Well, because of the History Channel, when I found out that I had native blood, and I started to just at the very surface look into it, I was like, oh my God, these people seem like they know something about extraterrestrial. They call them star beings, but it made me very curious. And I really had this desire that I wanted to meet some of the chiefs and some of the grandmothers and some of the elders. But I thought, what a silly thing to even think, because I'm like this instant Indian. You know what I mean? Like I I don't even know my heritage. I wasn't raised on a reservation. I'm thinking how I'm like this instant Indian. How am I going to meet these chiefs and stuff? Well, right then and there, I met Chief Golden Light Eagle. He was brought into an Angels and Aliens conference in Columbus. I was brought in to speak on the Lake Erie UFOs. He was brought in to speak on the Native American Indian connection to star beings. So as I'm walking down the hallway, he and I like kind of lock eyes. He's like, "Oh, you're from up around the Great Lakes, right?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm in Seneca." He goes, "Oh, you're one of those Atlanteans, heavy duty." And he turned around and walked away. At another time, I walked up and I said, Chief, I've been learning that we should retune our whole musical frequency standard to 432. And I said, where does Native American First Nation people have their flutes and whistles tuned to? And he said, most of them are 432, some of them are 444. He said, what you need to do is discover the relationship between 432, 444, and 528, which I'm on it, by the way. So he said, Michael, all of the extraterrestrial races have a color and a frequency. He said, you and I are gold. You know, we are here to mine gold. This is what see, he's giving me hints before he actually let the, you know, told me he actually knows, because he didn't tell me he was in little Enki until, I mean, in little Yahweh until I asked him man to man. But he said, and later on, I had asked him about the book that is from the it's called the Star Symbols book, and it says the first page says it was formerly titled the Manual of the Galactic Federation of Light Brotherhood, and it had been passed down through the elders for generation after generation, and it was just brought through by Chief Golden Light Eagle. But I asked him, I said, Chief, I'm really blown away by the book. It brought a lot of confirmation to me. He said, well, it should. You wrote it. And he turned around and walked away. I'm like, what the hell? I don't remember writing it, by the way. But then at the Sundance that I was invited to, I asked him, I said, Chief, has anyone really actually read your book? Because it seems like to me, if they did read it, they wouldn't be doing what they're doing here. And he got pissed. He goes, Michael, I told you, I didn't write it. You did. And even if I were to read it, I wouldn't remember it. And I still don't even know what he's talking about there. But he had told me at the Sundance when the veil had dropped, he said, Michael, I work with the seven lords of light and the seven lords of darkness. I sit directly in between those two galactic councils of light and dark, and I'm the only one who holds a seat on both sides, light and dark. And so what had happened was, after this in flesh meeting is when I came across the information that Chief Yahweh was known to
Yeah.
the Iroquois and the Cherokee long before the first uh, Testament in the Bible. And Chief Yahweh was said to be this chief who sat in between these two councils of war and peace chiefs, and was the only one who sat directly in the middle of these two councils, and wore a bonnet that was both, which is important. And so when I found this out, I'm like, oh my God, this is exactly what Chief Golden Light Eagle communicated to me. He said, I sit directly between these two galactic councils of light and dark. He called them seven lords of light, seven lords of darkness. For Yahweh, they were called peace chiefs and war
War chief.
chiefs. So the next time me and Chief were together and we're in the same vehicle, I looked him in the eye, man to man. I said, Spirit is led to me to understand. I said, this is kind of awkward, but that you are Enlil, Yahweh, my brother. And he said, yes, I've done some pretty messed up things.
Mhm.
Those were his first words to me. And he said, Michael, I want you to know as well, this isn't the first time that we've come together. And in many other incarnations, we met, and the last time was not pleasant. He said, but I understand now that you've been only showing me my own darkness. And at the end of this lifetime, he and I, from what I understand, for the first time in many, many incarnations, came together and much brotherly love was flowing, and a change in game plan was approved, and we're on to the next golden age.
Yeah, because throughout history, I was saying some of the names of Enki, and Enlil had numerous names as well. And throughout those battles, Enki and Enlil, depending on who they were, would just continually battle each other. And like he was responsible for trying to wipe out all of Enki's creations. And he just, if we just think, if you combine the Old Testament and New Testament, I think he was responsible for over 6 million people dying, just adding up the numbers from just that alone. So like, what was it with the memories you have? What was it like to have someone in the family constantly warring over kingship, where everything was always split, everything was always a battle, everything was, it's just like,
He wasn't that way. He's the one that actually brought me into before the council, War and Peace Chiefs, or the Seven Lords of Light and the Seven Lords of Darkness. It was him that orchestrated it, because that individual, that King Solomon, if you're vetted and you go before that council and they can't trick you, if they can't trick you into giving your energy away to illusionary outside sources, which they're very, very good at it. If there's one individual that they can't trick into their dark territory, the game's over, man, because we're all one, right? If one of us can do it, any of us can do it. And I did it in 2016 before the council. And talking about calling it close, though, the end of this Kali Yuga was December 21st, 2016. I was brought before the council in June of 2016. That's a very, very long time slice. And talking about, one of the grandmothers said that we arrived late, but still on time.
that's perfect. So the Seven Lords of Light and that's part of the group giving you these memories and accepting you in, how did they manifest? Were they all part of the tribe?
Yes, but the Seven Lords of Darkness, the head individual, interestingly enough, had a human meat suit avatar, and he worked as a CAI profile analyst. Isn't that interesting? But they were in human form. There was one of them who was in charge, and he was supposed to be the one that's in contact with spirit. And if he says that you're going to be pierced, you get pierced. Whether you want to or not, you are now officially a part of a flesh and blood sacrifice ceremony. On the What Chief Golden Light Eagle said was, he said, Michael, this is all about self-inflicted suffering through your own will, free free will, that the dark can have no dominion or sway over you unless you give them permission and open the back doors that come on in and give your attention. Do not give your energy away to illusionary outside sources. But the team light, the Seven Lords of Light, the seven peace chiefs, they're going to see what kind of love and compassion to any suffering that comes your way. It's the flip side. If the dark are going to see if they can get you to give your energy away to illusionary outside sources by dangling dark carrots, and seeing, and if they can get you to bite, then they can go back to the king, go, see, they always misuse their power. They always choose fear over love. But then the grandmothers, it's the total opposite. And what they told me, though, is there's a cheat code, and it doesn't matter now because it only takes one and I've done it. But how I shut the whole system down is I prayed for rain, because there's Illuminati mind control to never pray for rain at this ceremony. And so if you do pray for rain to alleviate the suffering of your fellow brothers and sisters, you didn't succumb to the mind control to not pray for rain, because it's there in the mind control. But the seven Lords of Light are going to see what kind of love and compassion to any suffering that comes your way. If you pray for rain to alleviate the suffering of all that is there, to rain it out, No more testing necessary. And if you remember the story of King Solomon, that when King Solomon passed these tests, in quote, God came down and said, well, you've got a lot of time left on the planet. What do you want to do? And he said, well, I'd like to become the wealthiest man in the world, but my people need me. I want my people saved and freed. So God said, well, we're going to still make you the most rich person on this planet, but it'll also free your people and save them. And so what they told me was, once I was brought before the same council as King Solomon, and these are truly what Halls of Amenti events are. People think there's only one and it's underneath Egypt. It's not. They're all over this planet, and it's where specific ley lines of energy cross, and in specific times of the year that align with solstices and equinoxes. That's why some of these ancient cultures were so interested and serious about tracking solstices and equinoxes. That's when the most energy pulses through the ley lines. So
How important that
that's
is to how important of that does that tie into the seven chakras and aligning those to be at the right frequency to traverse that?
um well, the most energy is going to be flowing, period, through the human body at those points. So that's why a lot of Native American Indian chiefs, they would bring all of their people to mound sites to put good energy at solstices and equinoxes to bring in better timelines for the tribe. And can you imagine how much better this world would be if all of this land was returned to its rightful owners that could start to use the land again to bring in better timelines for humanity? Well, hold my beer. It's underway.
Yeah, man, like I would love to have that fairy tale ending, but we're only what's been prophesized is only like 1,000 years of like good
Yeah,
amongst
but you know what
millions of
exactly?
years of suffering. So it's
I
just,
asked I asked them, dude, how come only 1,000 years of peace? What's that about? They said, without being under the control and oppression of the dark cabal, the amount of evolution mankind will experience, that the idea of years and keeping track of time that way will absolutely make no sense to us whatsoever. That it's not that it's only 1,000 years. It's just 1,000 years of what we would even count as years, because after that we will be not calculating time in the same way whatsoever.
that does make sense. Because I was thinking like that's only three revolutions of Ashar. So like that's only 3 years for an average Anunnaki being that 1,000 years. So if it's interpretive and it's not linear like you're describing, then that's a lot more easier to hear than only, hey, we only get a little over 3 years of like Anunnaki time to actually evolve and to see what it's like to not be held back for the first time and see
But I'll
what
tell you what, man, for reals, Enlil was pissed that I went before the council, and this is the result. He said this is the first time in a very long time slice that mankind is going to enter a new age without any controls. And he looked right at me and he said, because controls are, no, he said, there will be no rules because rules are control, right, Michael? And what he was insinuating and what I felt was him saying, you have no idea what you've done, that humanity without proper guidance and making sure we don't burn ourselves with the matches we've been given, that we'll self implode. And I'm just to the point of saying, well, give us a shot. We'll never know, will we, if you keep thinking that way. And now they all have a better outlook on humanity, that we're capable of much more. Even the rate of change that we're experiencing into the light as a mass unconsciousness is off the charts. It's surprising even the Anunnaki themselves.
So it gets to the point where our evolution can't be held back anymore.
Yeah, yeah. And even AR said, you've heard of the 100th monkey, right?
Yep.
The 100th monkey has it at 7%. You know what? You might want to explain this. I could do it, but I need to get a sip of water anyhow. But what I could tell you is it's the 100th monkey has the threshold as 7%, and it's not. It's only 3% of a population. Once it learns a new way of approaching trial and tribulation, it'll spread throughout the mass consciousness. We're already past the 3%, according to A.R. Borden.
And that basically gives a mass upload of a new awareness of evolution or a new awareness of a learned subject, and everybody knows about it out of nowhere.
Yes, and taking effect into the equation that my 432 tech was just taken to the moon to forever shine down back on this planet. Pretty mind-blowing. Think of it in the way that mankind just entered a new age of living water. And when you find out that water is not what we think it is, it's alive, it has memory. Look into the work of like Dr. Emoto.
Yeah.
A new world of living water, which is not, it's not stoppable now. Elon Musk already took it to the moon. It's there, and it's going to be there for the next 10 billion years. NASA has proved that my technology is not passive, it's active. It's both a transmitter and a receiver, a transceiver simultaneously. And it's now on the moon, you know? Part of me is like mission to fruition. I'm not going to sit back and just take a breather, but I might smoke a joint.
Hey. Yeah, so your work with the 4032 hertz, you basically figured out a technology that actually restructures water. And basically, since we are water, do you have any mechanisms to bring this to a bigger scale that can actually modify the body? Like Nassim Harriman has the arc crystal technology that actually
This
reconfigures.
will do what the arc pendant does and more. And I sell them for $40.
Is that embedded with the 432 hertz?
Yes. And it's both sides from red to purple and all the colors of the human chakra system. But on the back, it's reversed. And that's because us Native Americans believe that once you went through your ascension process, but what you need to know, it's this image itself that has been, I was told how to do an ancient water blessing ceremony by Chief Golden Light Eagle, Enlil. And he said, we can quantumly entangle this cymatic image to the cosmic energy present in Fountain of Youth water. And we're going to tell you where to go to impregnate this with the energy from Fountain of Youth water that's in Miami, actually. And that's the real Fountain of Youth. So I did that mission while I was in Florida and went and encoded this in a lot of the fresh spring aquifers. The one that was the first one I did was Rainbow Springs, which is interesting. So this the grandmothers is more excited about this than anything. So they said wherever this goes on the planet, it's raising its atmosphere. It's raising the frequency of the room just by being there. Because not only is it transmitting inside your body, but it's transmitting out. So wherever you go, this thing is creating a galactic web of cosmic harmonious light frequency, the actual frequencies that are part of light. But what I'm telling you now, think about what it means that up until this moment in time, all of this has been held within the ozone layer of planet Earth. Nothing has left this cocoon. until 2 days ago when it landed on the moon. And so the fact that it is there, like if it restructures one droplet of water that is in our atmosphere, and then that water droplet falls into our waterways, whether it's streams, creeks, rivers, ponds, lakes, oceans, um, all of the water on this planet is going to become living holy water that has energetics that NASA said they've never even seen in any water studies they've ever done before. And I have all of the science to back all of this up. Um, I'm very excited. But isn't it weird? Did you hear that that thing tipped over? I'm talking about the spacecraft that my work
Yeah,
is on.
that is really odd. It
Yeah,
was almost like it was beings going up and just going, just like knocking it over, like, all right, man, get a little too close over here with that technology.
yeah. I have no clue what it's about and what it got, but I can tell you, I've begun work with Richard Hoagland. We can talk about that. Richard Hoagland is NASA's science advisor throughout all of the Apollo missions, like Walter Cronkite, all that. Well, he and I have become friends, and dude, I've learned a lot from him about everything we're talking about. But why was I telling you about him?
Is he connected to the frequency stuff?
Yeah, for sure. But well, we can get into him and how it all came about because the world doesn't even know this, dude. Think about what I'm telling you and how big it is. He first contacted me and said, "We know your story sounds batshit crazy to most people, but NASA has been looking into how energy flows." He calls it hyperdimensionally or multidimensionally for a very long time. And the math and the numbers and the physics you're bringing to the table are right on the money. He said, "I would like you to come on my radio show. It's called The Other Side of Midnight and talk about what led you to these discoveries." So during that interview, he's like, "You know what? I want to arrange for a world renowned biophysicist scientist who does consulting for NASA. Her name's Beverly Rubik. I want her to look into your 432 crystal work." So it was Richard Hoagland that set that up. And sure enough, she found out it's history in the making that it's bringing through chi and prana and life force at a rate that, but it not only will it restructure water and turn it back into living water. I'm talking about taking dead municipal tap water, but a friend of mine owns the equipment to check the whole body's Meissner field. Like how the heart has a much larger electromagnetic field around it than the brain. You've heard
Yep.
that, right?
Yep.
Well, every organ in the body has an electromagnetic field around it. And there's the technology that's out there, and my friend has it, that you put your hand on a bunch of diodes and it hits all of your chakra points, like all like pressure points, and it will spit out an image, and everywhere in the body, like if there's something wrong with your shoulder, it'll show up in the image as a black cloud around your shoulder. It's in the throat or whatever. So he goes, "Let's check out what your disc is doing." He said, "Take off the pendant, and then I will take over a disc so you don't have to touch it because that would negate. And then we're going to wait for about 3 hours. So there's nothing from this technology that's in your field. And then come over and we're going to check it." So about 3 hours later, I walked over, I put my hand on those diodes, he hit image, and the image popped up. And there's about 8 different black clouds that had formed in different areas. I went through some real health issues last year, so this doesn't actually shock me. But he said, "Okay, hold out your hand." And he put my energy disc in my hand, and I just put it on top of the other one that's on top of the diodes and hit image again. And it brought every single thing that was out of homeostasis back into homeostasis. It brings through chi, life force, prana into the human body that just brings everything back into healing and back into alignment. It's it's such a huge blessing. Now take into the fact that it was just brought to the moon. You know,
I was just
it
thinking
sounds
the
like a
importance of the 432, and it people need to understand that time is 432 based. It's kind of like
yes,
there's 43,200 seconds and 12 hours. So
yes.
it's been encoded in a way that no one understands because it's all mathematics at that point. It's all cymatics.
Yeah, and even, really started to blow my mind was working with Richard Hoagland. Like I said, this guy's NASA's science advisor. And what you find out is some of these sacred temples around the world, one wall will be 1,080 feet long. Another wall will be 2,160 feet long. You get into the mound builders of North America, like in Newark, one of the walls is 1,080 feet long. Those are all octaves 432. Like just because you got your middle A note on a piano tuned properly to 432, there's still a lower A note. It's called an octave. And to get the proper scientific hertz, which is how we measure frequency, uh, you take whatever hertz you're at and you divide it by two. So 432 divided by two is going to give you the proper frequency, which is 216 for your next lower A note on your piano. And then 108, which 108 is interesting because Tibetan monks have 108 prayer beads on their bracelet, and they'll recite mantras and meditations 108 times. But then 54 and then 27. So 27 hertz is exactly 4 octaves below 432. But interestingly enough, if you put through a 27 hertz pulse through a cymatic device, it produces a perfect 7-pointed star. What that means is a 7-pointed star cannot be separated from the cosmic harmonious frequency bed of information. There are two different ways of showing the exact same star knowledge, the knowledge of light and sound and how it creates physical reality. So I've never looked at a 7-pointed star the same since then.
And it's interesting is the number seven in the Anunnaki story. It's just like everything is a divine number of seven. No matter what it's divided into, it's seven every time.
Yeah. I think, well, like you said, well, what Richard Hoagland said is, I kind of have been thinking, why did the ancients record these 432 based math and physics into these ancient structures? Was it just to house them? Was it, to um, make sure it was some kind of recorded in some type of stone library? Richard Hoagland said no. He said during this dark age we went through, all these frequencies being encoded in these ancient sites. He said, imagine how low mankind would have dipped during this dark age without the 432 frequencies being embedded into these ancient sacred sites. I've never thought of it that way, that it's actual technology, the actual formation, because you find out even in those monoliths that are in Washington and New York, and they all adhere to very specific sacred geometry. I think that's pretty cool. Oh, but he said, this is Richard Hoagland to me. He said, the largest thing we know of is if you convert it into miles, the sun is 86,400 miles across, I believe. And the moon is 2,160 miles across. Again, those are octaves of 432. And that's the only reason why we have a full totality eclipse where the moon fits perfectly inside of the sun, because they're both perfectly octaves of one another. So, but then getting into the seconds, like you said, he said the smallest division of time that we use as humans, for the most part, is 60. Whether it's 60 seconds in 12 hours is, like you said, 43,200. But I've become friends with Graham Hancock, and he said, Michael, if you take that number of 43,200 and multiply it by the height and width of the Great Pyramid in Giza, you get the actual
Degrees of the slope.
you get the actual accurate dimensions of planet Earth.
Yeah, encoded in the Great Pyramid. Yeah.
Yeah, the slope though is what you're talking about. Is Graham Hancock has it at 51.86 degrees angle slope. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. We now know the pyramid is 8 sides. And those 8 sides, you can only see it on the
Quite
solstices and equinoxes. I think it's just the solstice now that I think about it. But it's kind of like that pyramid in Mexico where you can only see a serpent that comes down the steps
Chichen
on the
Itza.
equinox, I think. Uh,
It's
don't
Chichen
quote me on
Itza.
that. Yes. So it's kind of
Well,
like the same
that's also the temple of Kukulkan, so like it's the same thing.
right on. So at this point, I'm like, well, wait a minute. If there's 8 sides, there's got to be more than one side angle. It can't be just 51.86. And this voice in my head is like, Michael, subtract your 51.428, because that's another subject, but they guided me into the significance of that arc. And because 360 divided by 7 equals 51.428. And they had guided me into the significance. So once they told me to subtract 51.428 from 51.86, being the two side angles of the Great Pyramid in Giza. The answer is 432.
Yep. I remember when you originally posted that, I was pretty excited to read that, man. I was
It's
like, oh,
mind blowing. Can you imagine the engineering that it would take to embed and encode an angle, this Ark of the Covenant 51.428 arc that is only revealed twice a year in the actual construction blueprint and layout of the pyramid? That's unthinkable, really. But then you find out that that 51.428 arc that makes up the blueprint of a seven-pointed star, the actual latitude line of planet Earth. Look at the latitude and longitude. I believe it's,
yeah, it's encoded the speed of light's encoded right there.
yeah, but what is called the St. Mary and Michael's ley line that goes through Europe, through Stonehenge and through Avebury. That ley line is situated on Earth's latitude line of 51.428.
Yeah, it's like none of this math is a coincidence. You was speaking about how the moon's 2,160 miles around. That's
Oh,
the
yeah.
age. That's one age. Every age
Yes.
is 2,160 years. So just placing the moon that exact distance away from the Earth and have it that exact size of 2,160 miles, that is, I feel it was created almost because it's too perfect. Because if you
Well,
if you
even right
did it,
then and there, I
it's
asked
all
Richard,
wrong.
dude, it's mind blowing, isn't it?
Yes, everything is
Uh,
mathematics. That's the secret of reality is encoding math and interpreting math, and you can understand everything.
Oh, if you and your listeners want to go down a rabbit hole with me, my next question to Richard Hoagland was, well, who the hell came up with the system of miles and 60 seconds in a foot? And he said, you need to look into the imperial system of measurement that came out of Europe. That, guess what? This person had been studying Thoth, the system of measurement.
Mhm.
And this system of measurement, we're the only ones that still use it. The rest of the world went on the metric, right? We're the only ones that use 12 inches in a foot and seconds and miles. But I've not done it yet. He said we need to look into the person that brought forth the imperial system of measurement, because this system is the only system that aligns you with galactic source energy. cosmic harmonious frequency, star knowledge only happens, but then take the longest count that we use as a species is called, the Anunnaki called it the Great Year. And that's the full precessional cycle, and that's 25,920 years cycle. And so if you take the longest time slice and divide it by the shortest time slice, that would be 25,920 divided by 60, and it's 432. So it begins to really start to understand. And like you said, 432 squared is the speed of light. So it's the only frequencies that tie into E equals mc squared, E being energy, m equaling mass, and c equaling the speed of light. What I'm telling you is 432 times 432 equals c, the speed of light.
Wow.
Squared times mass equals energy.
It's like they were giving us the codes to become space travelers,
Yeah,
because at the speed of light, we now become interdimensional and we can traverse long distances without time.
they say it actually happens for the individual that when, and it's not easy, but that is, you need to become rainbow. That the human chakras have to be clean, balanced, and spinning freely before any extra manifestation ability is ever given by spirit. Because Chief Blue Star Eagle told me that imagine that you've done your spiritual homework and you've weeded the fear and doubt and nonsense out of 6 of the 7 chakra centers. But that 7th, let's just say it's your root. So it's not clean. So you're experiencing all kinds of problems with keeping a roof over your head and abundance. That all of a sudden, if you were granted all this extra manifestation ability, you're probably going to go to just whatever you still have a fear stamp on and manifest the shit out of exactly what you don't want. And he looked at me and he said, Michael, spirit is smarter than that. That's why it's so important to the Tibetans to obtain the rainbow body, or to the Nordic, crossing the rainbow bridge, to the Native American Indians, becoming rainbow, which just means all your chakras are illuminated. And, so once that happens, you can begin to ignite your own energy, subtle energy fields, and create your own Merkaba, your own light craft, interdimensional travel vehicle. But there's not too many humans on the planet. I'm getting to the point that I'm toying with it.
That's a perfect segue back into these light orbs that you've seen right on Lake Erie
That's
and
what they are.
light bodies.
Yeah. Now I'll tell you what I found out from the Arcturian ambassador. He said the human subtle energy field, your aura or whatever, ends about 3 foot above your head and 3 foot below your feet. So if you were a 6 foot individual, you would have a 12-foot ball of light around you if you ignited your own Merkaba. Um, 3 of those individuals can come together in a triangular formation, and with a very specific ball of material between them. He said, Michael, you know how matter is mostly light that's been slowed down and has become physical. He said, imagine a physical material that is the closest to flipping back and becoming light again. It's screaming to become light. Well, you have these 3 ascended masters creating massive amounts of chi, of life force within these energy fields that they're creating. They start willing energy almost like in an infinity loop out of their crown chakra into that ball of material that's wanting to become light again, and into the toes of the other ascended master. That's where energy mostly enters the body, by the way. It's the feet, the air, and the water. But anyhow, once you get three of these individuals all working together and sending their energy into that massive material wanting to become light, they will it. They put so much energy into it that it ignites into a little miniature supernova right there in between them. Then they can put that energetic web out and create like a 50-foot ball of light. So if you ever see like a house size ball of light, more than likely it has three ascended masters in it. And the Arcturian ambassador said it's always threes, sixes, and nines. Because what happens then is, so now just keep in your mind's eye one big ball that has three individuals in it with one ball, basketball size of material in between them, and they're sending energy in infinity loops back and forth. Now, three of those, so you got nine individuals, can come together and in some process unknown to mankind, create a giant triangular craft that accounts for these giant triangular craft that are seen over Phoenix and over. So what they're telling me is nine of these individuals creating some type of spiritual light technology and create one giant triangular craft that then thousands of them can use to come down and see what us crazy humans are up to and what we're doing. So, but what I want to tell your audience is I was contacted by Bigelow Aerospace, which is the ones that were funded by the Pentagon. And they said, we know you're in contact with the real thing because we've been studying it over the Skinwalker Ranch for a very long time. And he said, what we want to know is why you've had such a better experience with this intelligence. We've just got our pants pulled down. And it shows us that it definitely is in charge. But you've been actually getting science and why? And I said, well, quit attacking it for one thing. Quit approaching it with the arrow metaphorically. Try the olive branch. Try music. Try generating good vibes, and then see what happens. But I'm looking forward to being contacted by the Skinwalker Ranch show and them having me come out and do some music there for them in 432,
Yeah, I
obviously.
was about to mention that because you encode a lot of your music in 432, including your technology, and you had just released a song, I think it was called Morning Star,
Yes.
that you sent
Yeah.
me. Really cool, kind of angelic kind of vibes, and kind of it's pretty awesome. Cool, man.
Thank you, brother. I'm very proud of it. The My musical compadre, his name is Dan Reid, and he was one of my biggest inspirations in life to want to be a musician. And what had happened was in 1990, he was hand selected by Mick Jagger to open up 60 shows for the Rolling Stones, and he opened for David Bowie and Bon Jovi. He was that level of cat. But simultaneously, he said that that crushed his illusion that when he thought when you had that kind of fame and money that all of your problems went away. He said that wasn't the case at all. There's a lot of drama still. And but he met the Dalai Lama, and that's what sparked his pilgrimage to start living with the monks. And so now fast forward, he and I have become dear friends, and I've played the last four Cleveland concerts for him. I'm a guitar player, I should say. That's my first love, and maybe your listeners would know the name Steve Vai. Played for Frank Zappa. He played for David Lee Roth of Van Halen when he quit. Whitesnake, etc. I won the Ibanez Steve Vai Guitar Challenge in the past. Just not to pat myself on the back, but
What
just
is that
for
challenge?
yeah, just to know I take music very seriously, and so it all leading into what's happened with the Anunnaki and it leading me into cosmic harmonious frequencies. Matter of fact, that's exactly what A.R. Borden said at the very beginning of me being brought into the fold. Is he said that you have music in you, but not just in the fact of music and like writing cool Beatles songs, that to create physical matter, you need music, more specifically frequency, but not just any frequency, you need frequencies, means plural, you know? And so going down this rabbit hole, I learned from NASA that only frequencies that resolve to 9 bring through any higher photonic light energy.
I was
And
gonna want to mention that to you earlier with the 432 because all other frequencies that don't end in 9, I believe that the 9 octave, I believe that it's divine because it completes a full circuit. And that's
yeah,
why when we went to 440 hertz, when we changed the music, it was one short of completing an octave, which
yeah.
means we're frequency based humans or plants. If you constantly play music that doesn't complete an octave, you're going to get disharmony.
You know what this Dan Reid, the Arcturian ambassador and the guy that I did Morningstar with, he said, Michael, you know how the ancients gave us this idea of multiplying and dividing whole units by 12. He said, let's see what happens when you take today's musical standard and divide it by 12. And so you take 440 and divide it by 12, and what you get is 36.66666666666666. And then he said, let's take 432 and divide it by 12. You get a perfect 36. He said, oh my God, look at all
Ends
those
in 9.
reminders of sixes. He said, it's pretending to be sacred geometry while still being an imposter. An imposter. I thought, wow, that's freaking brilliant. You know, that it's as close as you can get to a perfect whole number being, and 3, 6 is 9, right? And all frequencies like 36 would equal a 9 in the frequency because 3 and 6 is 9. So 369 in Tesla,
Also ends 9.
yes. Yeah. It's pretty mind blowing. It's fun. To me, man, this has brought magic
It's the
back into my
secrets of the
life. I
freaking
feel like,
universe, man.
yeah, it feels like we're living a big old Scooby Doo cosmic episode.
Yeah, and it feels
And
like it's almost like a matrix cheat code. Once you understand the programming language, then can you physically affect the matrix? Kind of like your technology. You figured out programming codes, and therefore you figured out a way to affect the masses. Even with
yeah,
the fourth, third,
dude, you know what? I know I can do it. I know I can rip in new timelines. I've done it. But I've found that I can only do it if I'm trying not to do it. I have a
that's what
hard
create
time
art.
that in it has to be of a pure heart and doing it for no other hidden agenda other than wanting. For me, it's always been I'm trying to stop suffering that I'm witnessing around me. So with a pure heart, I ask for change and it happens. So I'm trying to get to the point of being able. I've learned from A.R. Borden, he calls it LERM, light encoded reality matrix. And you know what I just found out, dude? I don't know how much time we got, but dude, I just found out where all this technology, A.R. Borden, it it came from the discovery of the Anunnaki. But for instance, you know what
Yeah, they were known as
the
accordion.
yeah, but I just found out even beyond that, the Cordium is the council of the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki themselves call themselves the keepers, which is makes sense, the watchers, right?
Yep.
Um, but what I can tell you is it was the watchers or the keepers who contacted A.R. Borden long ago. A.R. Borden said in his letter to Michael that the creation of by the way, I would just learn that the ACIO is not the most accurate term for this organization either. That really, if you really want to cut down on confusion, it's the Light Physics Group, California, the LPG. See? But the world kind of knows this organization as ACIO because that's the title 15 gave this organization to release the information about the wing makers. It's all so connected. But some of the names get changed to protect the innocent. Like, actually, I heard Dr. Anderson is not the actual accurate term either, because I know a lot of people think he was the original Dr. Neruda. They said, no, actually, that was just the original release of it. They changed that name to track a leak that the ACIO had. I think we talked about this. It ended up being James Casbolt.
Yeah, he leaked a lot of information. I'm surprised they didn't kill him because the group he was in, it was a pretty deep group, and if you talked, the penalty was death.
Yeah.
So they didn't kill him. So he released a lot of information.
They didn't let him in either, though. A.R. Borden did not allow him into the inner sanctum. I was there during that time period.
And at the end of 15's life, he gave you permission to release all the learning material of LERM and the NPO and all that stuff through the Life Physics group, right? And you always
Yes.
ask people to go look at the file section of Team Enki on your group on Facebook.
Yep.
I did a little deep
It's
dive
all
in that,
there
man.
waiting.
There's some great PDFs, it's like next level information yet. It's all just awesome PDFs. So everybody needs to go to Team Enki and check that out, man, because
And also, AR's wish at the time of his death was a new organization called the Linkage Institute.
yeah.
And the Linkage Institute had a lot of members from the UFO community, through Hollywood, through government. Like, the Dalai Lama is on the list. Myself, Michelle Obama, which was interesting. But
I read
the
that.
Linkage,
I was really shocked that I seen some of those names on there. I was like, interesting.
me too, and especially not to sound weird about it, but to see my name included. And I'm like, am I being punked? Through all this, dude, I start to feel like I'm Forrest Gump or something, and just the weirdest shit keeps happening. But the Linkage Institute was going to be a place where people could come and learn about the Anunnaki true knowledge in the past, present, and future in a very concise, responsible way of information that's been vetted. And I was brought in on the ground floor of that. But then right then and there is where he passed away. So what I can tell you is a few years back, I started the Linkage Institute Facebook group, and I uploaded, again, like you said, at the end of his life, he gave me permission to release all of the learning material I had been given by the ACIO.
And that's the file section. I said it was on Team Enki, but it's actually in the Linkage Institute with file section.
Well, both of them, actually.
Oh,
Both.
okay. Oh, nice.
Yeah, because, and the biggest collection of them, I can tell you, is actually, you might kill me for saying this, but Penny Bradley has a very nice collection of all this information that she's put into one whole collection. But
She has actually gifted me a lot of that access directly to her Google account that houses all that. So
yes,
it is,
yes.
if I could guess, there's probably 500 or more links of all PDF next level information. And I feel that if I read an entire lifetime, I still cannot get through what's in that and the contents of it. It's so massive.
Well, I'll tell you, dude, what I learned to do, and it is to change realities and rip in new timelines, what they call LERM, light encoded reality matrix. I call it learning that belief Belief is your thoughts, feelings, and emotions create your physical reality. So it's much beneficial to start thinking about what you're thinking about and learn to weed the fear and doubt and bullshit out of your own belief system. That's the only way. A.R. Borden calls this bootstrap evolution. That the only way to raise your frequency is to do your own shadow work. And it's all individual. Everyone's got their own walk. Some people might need throat chakra work and they have a hard time speaking their truth. Other people might be having root chakra issues. There's no one single path to rainbow. But how I can tell you, what rainbow status is sovereign integral. That should sound familiar to you.
That means you operate outside the controlling mechanism and structure, and it's your own sovereign. You're actually
Yeah.
in your true power of your light without succumbing to the laws of the man-made stuff. It's just like
Yes.
you can't be
Yeah,
affected
you've
by it
ascended.
anymore because you are so high that the lower vibrational stuff can't affect you.
Yes, but you're in this world, but not of it, because there ain't no doubt about it that we're still part of the mass consciousness. We are an integral part of mass consciousness while being sovereign. And Chief Golden White Eagle said, Michael, us ascended masters had to learn through the same process you did. And it's all about becoming sovereign. Because he said, I have to go before whirlwinds of energy for government and for church and stuff on behalf of the Native American First Nations. All of those institutions have whirlwinds of energy that will try to pull you in. And unless you've learned to stand sovereign in your own I am, you can be swayed by worrying about what others think of you or betrayal or whatever. So even in ascended masters, part of their learning of how they get there is learning how to become sovereign and not be swayed by those currents that'll pull you into whirlpools of negative energy, unless you're careful, you know, because the only thing that the dark have to get you to enter their territory is fear. But one thing that often haunts me is Chief Colin Light Eagle said, Michael, the trickiest way the dark have to get you to enter their territory is through your own love and compassion. That's a mouthful. Really contemplate what that means is they'll use your own. They've made me, they set me up to fail by making something appear as something that it was not. But think of the trickery there, man. I was responding to absolute illusion as if though it was reality, because that's what they were trying to do. So they're very good. The dark is good at that. Chief said they'll get you to try to enter someone else that's drowning in life's quicksand and jump in with them. He said the truth of the matter is that's the worst way to try to help someone. If you ever find someone that's drowning in earth's quicksand, trial and tribulation, don't jump in with them. That just ends up with two people drowning in the quicksand. Stand on your own solid ground and throw out a life buoy or a rope or something. And
because
so I've
because the
seen
obstacle
it.
is their path.
Yeah, but they're very good at making things around you look like they're in harm's way to get you to react in fear.
And that's how they keep us from ascending. Because what I learned through QHHT, through Dolores Cannon, and what I do with hypnosis
I
is that
love her.
forgiveness and living in the moment is how you transcend all of it. If there's anything linking you to the past, it's because there's something there that you never forgave or something that you never let go. It's literally like you're a boat and you dropped an anchor 500 miles ago. That was 20 years ago. And you're
I like that.
only that far because you're anchored to that moment and you cannot physically move forward. And the only way to do it is to accept and forgive. You don't have to do it to the person. You can say, They taught me a very valuable lesson. I now know that if this situation ever appears itself in my life, I'm now going to know what the outcome's going to be. And I thank that person for putting me through that, because now I know, now I've learned. And when you remain in the moment and forgive all that crap from the past, you can now move forward for the first time in your life. Most
Love
people
it.
in this matrix, they have hip, ankle, and knee problems. And what we found out from Dolores Cannon, because both of us love Dolores Cannon, I love that woman. We
Yeah,
found
me
out that
too.
when you're standing in a toxic situation where you can't feel like you can move forward out of a relationship or of a job, you start manifesting these physical pains. And then they get worse and worse and worse, because it's the spirit trying to tell you that you're standing in the quicksand. You're waiting for someone to come rescue you, and you are your own rescue. Stop staying in the past. Stop focusing on the future and focus on getting out of the quicksand and just making one step forward out of it. It's all you got to do.
Yeah, man. Yep. And what they told me was up until 2016, which was the true ending of the age of Pisces and into the age of Aquarius. I can tell you, when I met the Anunnaki, they said their whole succession of kingship and how they relate to mankind was based on the precessional cycle. And they told me that's why tracking the precessional cycle and the entry into the age of Aquarius was so important to the ancients. And they told me that we've been under an experiment. The Are you familiar with the wing makers? They're talking about the intelligence
Yep.
accelerator software.
Which AR had to go through himself as well.
Yeah, and I'm finding out
Photographic memory as well. It comes with the second thing they got from the Greys. It's photographic memory.
I've had that used on myself and the team that I formed, and that's why I'm in contact with one of the higher ups of the LPGC. Is that when AR said, I want to use this Eye of Horus
Okay.
intelligence accelerators technology on Michael and the team, this individual higher up said he raised red flags and said, I will not do this because it kills people. When you let a human being experience probably like 10 years worth of shadow work in
Yeah.
1 year, it's very hard on the human psyche and not giving up. And, pretty much your life turns into a living hell. And that he said no. And A.R. Borden said, what if we bring you into the project, the mission to oversee the team that I'm forming, and you will be in charge of their medical records and keeping track of them and seeing how they're doing. So that's the only reason it happened and that individual is who I'm back in contact with. And he said, Michael, I can't believe I'm going to share some stuff that I've not shared before, but he said, the group, the Anunnaki, the SAM, the Labyrinth group, developed this whole program to find a small group of people to have this technology used on them. And they had told A.R. Borden that they wanted A.R. Borden to start what would be known as the LPGC, and that they told A.R. Borden that myself, have been chosen as their ambassador.
He was like a
That's
father
kind of heavy
too
duty.
before he died.
I'm cool with it because, it's what I'm here for. Uh, But the Anunnaki themselves said, Michael, you've done what you came here to do. You chose love relentlessly, regardless of the outside appearance of things. But you still have a lot of time left on this planet. What do you want to do with your time? And it didn't take me long. I said, I want to play music. Music is where I feel the most in contact with creator and source. It's where I feel the most connected with God. And I said, I want to play music. And they said, that's perfect because we're not looking for an evangelist and we're not looking for a politician. You being a musician is perfect. Go and play your guitar and let your freak flag fly. That was their own words to me. So I felt very good of like, I know as anyways, this isn't the time of a ruler or a dictator. This is the time of a council. And I'm okay with getting a roundtable back together to talk about things. And they did tell me too, the Anunnaki said, if all of this work that we've been doing for 27,000 years is to help mankind become rainbow and to usher mankind into a new golden age where mankind becomes a galactic society and a peaceful galactic society, they told me that won't happen through any voice of governance that's on the planet right now. It's not going to happen through Biden. It won't happen through Putin. It won't happen through Trump. They said it will happen through a Native American First Nation voice because, first of all, we do house the lost tribe of Israel, the Anunnaki human hybrid bloodline, and all that is going to be revealed as well. But I find all of this very interesting because, as you know, in our community, so many people have thrown the Anunnaki and the Nephilim under the proverbial bus and said that our bloodline is what has created all these secret societies and the skull and bones and behind all the world's problems. And it's no, man. The oldest Enki's bloodline comes in through the Native American First Nation tribes, which has been abused and genocided worse than any other race on this planet by Team Bad Cop is our people, up to 100 million people, some say. So what I if want to leave with anything is there's a lot of fear-based information out there that is coming about the Anunnaki. But without the knowledge that the oldest Anunnaki hybrid bloodline comes in through the Native American Indian cultures and myself, you're only getting half the story. And a half truth is not much truth at all, actually.
You know, speaking about that coming from the voice of somebody from the First Nation, and that's starting that entire evolution, right? It reminds me of a quote by A.R. Borden when he's talking about the 432 hertz frequency, and it says, you see, to create matter, you need music, or more specifically, sounds. And that can be vocal. That can be a voice you produce that starts that charge in that awakening. And
Absolutely.
he says not just any one sound, but specific sound frequencies in combination. You'll also learn about this in the course of your concentration, and you'll learn how to use them to light encode objects out of thin air.
Let me interject. I've cracked that code, by the way. I've not really got into it with the public, but you have cracked what the code of what notes produce the most anti-gravity.
Is it 432?
432 base, but he just said you need more than one frequency. So it can't just be 432 by itself. There are other notes that belong to the journey between octave to octave, between A open of being 432 to 864 on the 12th fret. There's harmonic vortexes of energy that only exist on the fifth fret and the 8th fret. So notes that are actually occupy the same space time as those harmonic vortexes of energy are going to bring forth extra photonic light energy from a higher dimensional realm. I can tell you, for instance, the A note would be A D,
The
E.
Pythagorean scale.
Yes. And all the Pythagorean scale means is that you got your A tuned to 432.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's fascinating because once I learned that the frequency needs to resolve to 9, I came home and I took one of my guitars and I sat down and I wrote out every fret on every string on the whole guitar neck. And I worked out the math of what the actual correct hertz, the frequency is for that note on that fret. And I realized, oh my God, every single note resolves to 9. So that means if you have your guitar tuned to A equals 432, no matter where you're playing on the neck, it's bringing through higher photonic light energy. Just the physics, the science of it. But then that was another puzzle to me because, well, then how the hell would you ever find out what the specific notes that are needed to create the most anti-gravity effect? And that's when they led me to understand that it's the harmonic vortexes of energy. But yeah, you know what's interesting is A.R. Borden, the letter you were reading to me was from 2008. You know, I had no clue what he was even communicating to me. None of that stuff
Is that when
stuff
you first met
really.
him? 2008.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Um,
2013. That's obviously when he passed away.
yes. What, dude, I hate that. This is something I don't even know if I should say. I'm not real sure what AI is, dude, but I just received a message from the ACIO regarding the year 2030 and some things that will be happening that's important for the world, how I'm involved, and guess who it, it was signed by?
Who?
A.R. Borden.
I've been seeing 2030 come up in a lot of QHHT stuff. Some big event is going to be happening and it's going to cause some catalyst of some kind.
It said actually it'll be myself and the Anunnaki revealing the Eye of Horus technology to the world in Egypt. They already told me that, to have a bug out bag ready at sometime in the very near future because those are ancient arrow sites. And they've already sent me the information on the actual 12 stargates that are on. I don't have them all memorized, but I could tell you Chaco Canyon. There's one in Sedona. There's one in Egypt under the pyramid, and it's China.
Would
Um,
you call all these halls of Amenti?
no, halls of Amenti are specific locations on the planet that just have more to do with. They're going to be at locations where ley lines cross
Yeah.
because they said what happens at halls of Amenti is during that time 13th dimensional grandmothers are no longer in the 13th dimension. They're intermingled right in three-dimensional space-time with you. And I was told, don't be alarmed if, you get someone grabs your foot while you're sleeping in your tent or calls out your name, that you're in the midst of spirit. And I surely witnessed and experienced all of that, by the way.
I can imagine like just your connection with AR because he said you were one of the best students he's ever had.
Yeah, that it kind of bummed me out actually. I'm like, uh,
Why? Because you thought you were not worthy, or like you're like,
yeah, there's got to
really?
be
Because
better.
like no one's achieved more than me. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, like I just when that news came to me that I was one of his favorites, and see now it's starting to make sense because what I was told is AR said what I'm really amazed at. This is back in 2008. What I'm looking forward to and looking forward to being amazed by is what you do with what we're going to teach you. What you're going to do with your ability to rip in new timelines and to bring mankind into better timelines than, because mankind was not on a
Weren't ready yet.
good transit in 2012. It was a doomsday transit. So the work we did was to bring mankind into a whole other timeline, which they told me that's what has created the Mandela effect. He said that the realities that we ripped in are so off the beaten path that it's created some things aren't the same way in that reality as they were here. So you get a Mandela effect. And they told me how to fix the problem, by the way. They said, your brother's bigger picture for mankind was not very favorable. He looked at mankind as always giving their energy and I am away to illusionary outside sources and giving their power away, and didn't think that we could succeed without being managed, micromanaged by the Anunnaki. That's not my viewpoint. My viewpoint is, without the control and suppression of mankind, let us show you how much better we can do. Because judging us with our hands tied behind our back is bullshit. And
Cool.
so you can see that these are two polar opposite, bigger pictures for mankind. And I just brought in the second option. And I I think I'm right.
It sounds like
I,
you two, you and Enlil, make up the duality of a completely balanced archetypal energy, and they are the antithesis of each other.
yes, but then what does it mean that at the end of all of this, for him to say, I realize now you were only showing me my own darkness? And you were right. Mankind is much more than slave labor. And I feel ashamed and embarrassed that me and my side of the family was going to let these beautiful Lulus, is what they call us, perish. And he knows he fucked up because it's not debatable now.
He numerous times he went to wipe us out before the flood. So like pestilence and controlling weather and stopping the rain and contaminating the soil. And then what happened in 2024 with the nuclear war that was breaking out in the Sinai Peninsula, and it created something so massive that they describe in the Bible that people were suffering from radiation sicknesses and they were bleeding out of their eyes, and like you could see just what happened in Sinai because like
Isn't
just
that
like
interesting, though? It's great that you know this, because this is indeed Enki's ascension. Because Enki just got to the point.
we're in the age of Enki now. The age of Aquarius, you said, started in 2016. So
Yeah, absolutely. But what had happened was Enlil had already put out the decree to let mankind perish. That didn't sit well with me. I'm like, not
yeah,
on my watch.
you had to
I
fight him,
went,
and you went to the council and had to
yes,
show the council, and Enlil was pissed off that
yeah.
Enki went to the council. So like,
Do you know the story of how he responded at the council when he found out that I didn't follow orders?
I remember the story.
Tell it, because I think it's hilarious. Because that's so my personality. I'm talking about where he burst out into laughter.
Yeah, he felt uncomfortable. Honestly, man, this is the time for you to tell this story, man. Like, I would be way more intrigued to hear it from you, man.
Well, what had happened was, instead of following the king's order, which was Enlil, I chose not to, which was unheard of for someone to go against what is in essence a hive mind. So it'd be like a worker bee going, no, I don't think so. And instead of following directions, which is punishable by death, he's the king. And even if you are his brother, if you disobey a direct order, that's punishable by death. And when I was sent out to collect the fish and send them back to Nibiru, uh, because Enlil was like, why put all this energy and stuff into keeping this fish here when mankind's just going to perish anyhow? And when I went out to collect the fish from the oceans, I found myself not able to do it. And I looked at mankind as family because I used my own genetics and DNA.
Yeah, because
And
you betrayed him by not keeping your word that you would actually, I think the terminology was the rod and bolt. And it was supposed to take that food source away from humanity, and you didn't.
I used my own DNA to splice what was Homo sapien, that the seven embryos then got taken in by the seven sisters, brought the term, and those they wasn't Adam and Eve. It was Adam and Eve and Wilma and Betty and Fred and Barney. I don't know. I'm being funny, but there were seven babies, and those embryos were the work. I heard that my sister is
How about Nick
more.
Herzog?
Yeah, she was like actually the brilliant one, and I just kind of rode her coattails.
She
But
was the master geneticist out of the group of you two. Like she was like, it reminds me of, she ran the major teaching hospital that taught genetics, and
yeah,
she was like the artist.
yes.
And that's also
But
why
you
we
can
call
see
her
why
mommy.
all of this, though, when my kind said, well, we don't like them anyhow. They're noisy and they make a lot of weird noises when they have sex, and I have
And that was
no.
only 600 years that he got pissed off. We only got to exist 600 years, which is what? A month? Less than a month of an Anunnaki timeline of their age. So he didn't even last a whole month before he wanted to wipe us out. Like, that is
He wasn't
insane.
real happy with this experiment. There ain't no way around it. But so what happened was when I got back from meeting my mother's side, the Pleiadian queen, the white dragon, uh, and said, "Isn't there anything that can be done? My race is going to let mankind perish and not lift a finger to help." And they said, "Well, tell us about this idea of the ark, which was not two of every animal. It was a DNA library."
That's what
But
I've told everybody.
they said, but even if we follow this plan of yours, it doesn't look like mankind has enough time to purge its collective shadow and evolve. We would evolve so fast technologically and not spiritually that 99 out of 100 outcomes we grew and just aimed our nuclear weapons at ourselves and destroyed ourselves. So the Pleiadians said, well, why even do this if they're just going to self implode? And that's when
They
they
did
went
it
back to.
to they did it even to Nibiru. Like, wasn't the ultimate goal to fix the ozone on their own planet with this gold breakdown to monatomic gold to actually heal it?
Yes,
So it's like
yes.
the war of kingship. No matter where they go, they always have the war of kingship, and you have brothers fighting over brothers, nephews fighting uncles, and it's always a control to see who's going to be the damn king. And like
Well,
we've seen,
not anymore, man. For whatever it's worth, I know, I've been granted kingship once again. I've been granted Enki-ship. What that means to the world, I think it's just that A.R. Borden said not everyone's mental energy affects the mass unconsciousness. If all of your thoughts stem from the mass unconsciousness, you're not evolving. You're just spinning in your wheels. And only once you've started to take, and then therefore, those people that are just spinning in the wheels of unconsciousness and not evolving, um,
which is an infinity loop.
yeah. But when you start to understand these things, then you can break out of the mass unconsciousness and start creating your own reality.
Kind of like
Um,
they said you did. You have this hive consciousness where you have a main controller telling its workers to do a certain thing, and you have this anomaly that stands up and is being like, you know what? I
Not
found
on
out
my watch.
an individual, and I don't like what you're all doing. So, like,
Well,
I
that's
got
what's
the
funny
change I
is
want to see.
They said in the past at the council, like when I was brought in after not following my brother's command and not taking the fish out of the oceans, and his will was not upheld. When I made it back to the council, he brought me into the middle of the meeting and just took me to task and berated me. It was like, you son of a bitch, you know, how dare you? I could have your head right now. You've disobeyed me. And they said my response like blew all of their minds, everyone that was in attendance, because I just stood up and broke into a belly laugh. You know, he had no clue. I had already went to my mother's side and already devised a plan how to save mankind. You know, that's what the belly laughter was about. It's like, how about screw you? Hold my beer, motherfucker. Excuse my language. Um, so that's almost the same thing. So that's what I call Enki's ascension back then when he went against his whole race and his whole family to stick up for mankind. And then again, fast forward to, and by the way, this is very weird. Back then, when the ark, the dimensions of the ark and the instructions is actually gifted to Enki by an individual named Gelzu. And unless people look into who Gelzu is, you'll never understand the Anunnaki and the inner workings of the Anunnaki. But Gelzu was said to be a.
Galzu is mentioned in your PDFs. I was reading one of your PDFs last night, and Galzu is mentioned in one of those PDFs. I can't remember. I've got to read it more. I like to read shit 1,000 times before I start talking about it. I don't like to
Right
just
on.
read something and just murder everything and don't know how to describe it. So,
Yeah, so Gelzu gave the dimensions of the ark to Enki, and Enki gave it to
okay, I
his
remember.
son, and that became Noah's flood myth. But what I want to tell
Or
you
the story of
is,
Atrahasis.
yes.
Where's the
So what
Zudra?
happened was Enki tells his son that this is not to be built like a ship. It needs to be able to be tumbled over and over, end over end, in the water into these waves that will be coming. And you need to, it needs to be more like a submarine, he told him. And that when you build it from the inside, you got to seal it up tight. And that if you can see any light coming in, you failed, because that means it's not going to be able to be tumbled over and over and over in the water again. And so now, fast forward to 2008, that story was given by Enki probably 5,000 years ago and put into the clay tablets. Fast forward to meeting Loki, and I asked him how to survive what was coming. And he said, you need to put yourself into a room, an apartment, and seal up the windows however you can. Put newspapers over them, put blinds up. But if you can see any light coming in, you failed. And instantly, like I started to think at first he was talking literally, because he said if you put yourself in there during, you'll know when it's time. Because he said if you look out, if you peek outside the blinds, you will witness things that would turn anyone insane, that would make anyone go insane. And it took me a while to realize the metaphor of not peeking out the blinds is not physical, it's mental. It's sealing up your mind tight and not letting any fear in. It's not peeking out into the outside world and letting any of the darkness that is all around us right now permeate your energetic field. That's the true meaning. And it was given to me 10 years ago and 5,000 years ago, the exact same spiritual understanding and the story of not peeking out the blinds and the creation of the ark. You see, the ark is not physical, it's the human mind, it's the human cocoon. That's the phase of reality that we're in right now, is the cocoon. But there is no butterfly without a cocoon, so it's not derogatory, and it's much needed in a natural phase that but over and out. Sometimes I just stop talking. I know it maybe
I'm the
doesn't
same way,
seem.
man. I'm the same way. You'll lose your train of thought. You're like, what was I saying? I had a point to this.
Yeah, well, what do you say with walkie-talkies?
Over and out.
Yeah, over and out. I'll just add an over and out when I'm done. I gotta
When you
share a
were
funny
when you were
because of
talking,
this.
I actually now remember the story of Galzu, and it had to do with a dream that you had, and you told Enlil, Anu, and then Hersog about this dream. And suddenly the next day, I think a tablet appeared at your bed, and it gave you the directions of and the blueprints of how to create this arc. I always
Yes,
found that amazing because Enlil was pissed because basically he said you saved the seed of life, you know,
yeah.
because
I
Gal remained.
But isn't it something for him to say? Now I realize you were only showing me my own darkness. Because for the longest time, that side of the family, they're a little bit younger. They don't have the Pleiadian side blood running through them. And I hate to say it is what it is, but they're younger and they're more militaristic and a little bit more serious. Where,
Kind of like your son Marduk, where he kind of went on in Lil's path and kind of started mirroring a lot of his attributes and his goal and his direction in
yeah,
life.
but that was at my asking him to do so. He he became the conduit to reflecting a negative polarity in hopes that we'll change it. Like if you need a dark lesson, he's the one that will make you experience the folly of your dark thought form. This dark energy up close and personal, it'll seem very, very real. And it's because they understand thoughts have an electromagnetic reality. Thoughts have energy. Energy can't be created or formed. Thoughts have waveform. Waveform is energy. Energy can't be created or destroyed. It needs to be transmuted. How do you transmute a negative thought form? Well, you live it. There's only one way. It needs to come up in your own personal waking state reality. And if you were already over it and you had transmuted those thought forms, it would not be recirculating through your reality. But when these things recirculate and you go, why am I getting screwed over again? Why is this happening again? It's because you're rerunning scripts that you've not transmuted yet, and they will continue to recycle.
That's
And
like our
usually,
incarnations. We repeat
yeah,
life
but
after life till we get it right and we heal that karma, then we get to move forward.
even within this lifetime, you get, what Chief said too, and I thought it was beautiful. He said, use gentle words to erase lifetimes of karmic debt.
And
You can change everything
a
right
nice
now.
gentle word to say is, I forgive you.
Yes. One of the
Or
biggest things.
can you forgive me? Therefore, I
And
release all
almost
this.
probably more important to say it to yourself.
Exactly. That's what we were talking about before we started recording about how forgiveness of yourself is how you actually can go back to that light body, because I believe that it's holding us here. And this is one of the biggest
But
things
like
we're
I
here.
said, though, holding us here, it's not without purpose, because if you're being held here, you're still inside the cocoon. You're still like in this
It's a perfect
uh,
analogy.
phase of reality where you're learning to push your wings against the friction of trying to free yourself from the cocoon. You're trying the actual freeing yourself is what strengthens your wings to be able to fly.
And that was the
So,
symbol of the Anunnaki, the wings.
you know what I was told too is the true meaning of the winged disc is seven lords of light and the seven lords of darkness with Yahweh sitting in the middle. That's that's the true meaning. Isn't that fascinating?
And I see the original symbol of Ahura Mazda, because that was one of the beginning symbols we found before it morphed into the eagle and to the other symbolism of the Anunnaki throughout the governments and stuff. It all originally derives from that one symbol. And
Yes,
wings
indeed.
are a symbol of portals, and birds, they're also a symbol of portals. To take flight is a symbol of a portal or transcending or going to another realm.
Hey, dude, how much time do we got?
Honestly, dude, we can just wrap it up here because I think our next interview, I'd love to interview you again, and we can really get into the ACIO labyrinth stuff and just have an episode where we focus on a lot of that stuff. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, man. Yeah, absolutely. And what what did I want to get into? Yeah, we'll do this again. We'll get into some other things. I forgot what it was anyhow. But man, it's been a pleasure, and thank you so much for having me on. And let me it's very nice to talk to someone like yourself. Because it gets lonely, as you know, there's not too many
Yes.
people you can have a conversation with. Most people are only interested around here in Cleveland Browns and Super Bowls and Trump or Biden, and you know, so it's nice to talk with like-minded individuals.
Well,
So
people like
thank
us
you.
we don't do small talk. We only want to do big talk. We want to talk about our traumas and what we're here to transcend from and how can we remove these prison bars and how we can learn. And you're right.
Yes,
People, they're trapped into the material. They only care about the dramas of the world. And that's what we're here to transmute, man, because the more we stop focusing on that shit, then we'll start that process of that 100 monkey effect.
yes, indeed. Well, enjoy the rest of your night, man. It's been awesome. It's been enjoyable, and we'll do it again ASAP.
All right, man. I'm just going to do a quick closeout. And until next time, it was really an honor to talk to you, man. I love talking to you, man.
Same here. Peace.
All right, as I prepare to conclude this chapter in our odyssey through the portal of another dimension, the ripples of amazing knowledge, classified information, just I can hear it echoing through the corridors of our minds. What we've revealed today is a fleeting glimpse into the covert realm of governed initiatives, ancient civilizations, and a concealed reality beyond the confines of Earth, intertwined with the enigmatic presence of the Anunnaki. But fear not, for our journey is far from its conclusion. The portal lingers, its energies pulsating with anticipation for the next chapter in our cosmic saga. Stay tuned for the sequel, where deeper mysteries await and the cosmic narrative unfolds. Subscribe now and become a companion on this interstellar expedition with me as we jump through different portals to the unknown. The universe's script is ever evolving, and you won't want to miss a single episode. As I begin to slowly close this portal and this chapter, remember that Portal to Another Dimension is not just another podcast, it's your portal to the unknown. Until next time, portal jumpers, keep your compasses steady, your curiosity burning, and your spirit attuned to the whispers and frequency of the cosmos. This is Drago, your navigator, bidding you farewell for now, and may the mysteries of the cosmos continue to beckon you into the unknown until the next cosmic chapter unfolds. The portal to another dimension is now closed. Until next time, everybody.